before you started working with us, what was your biggest problem? What was your biggest concern about going to an agency and putting this project together? What was the big catalyst for, like, we need to get some outside help, and what were you concerned about at that moment when you first reached out, Julie?
We knew we needed a learning design company. And I mean, initially we were calling it instructional design. One of our fears was to work with a company that would overcharge us and bill hourly and kind of nickel and dime the efforts to get this thing going and launch it. So we were really looking for a partner in the space, someone that would, honor the cost of where we're at as a nonprofit and, work with us and be able to be flexible and work within a scope of work and a timeline and meet that objective. And how I found Oppida was through YouTube. I was like, what is instructional design? I don't know what it is. And if I'm looking for a company that's going to help me do this, I sure should know what the definition is. And I saw you, Bianca, with one of your videos, the difference between instructional design and learning design. I was like, that looks cool. So yeah, after some time learning about Oppida, I circled it around to the team and we all agreed to reach out, and it sure has worked out.
Awesome. Thank you. And I guess it was a bit of a risk for you guys to pick an Australian company. So how did you think that went in the end?
It went great. I mean, you have the flexibility of your globally distributed workforce to make sure that stuff gets done before we need to look at it. So I think you use the time zone differences to your advantage, right? And your team is just outstanding, wherever they reside. Each of the individuals we work with have been talented and a great, productive, collaborative attitude. And, I just second Julie, like, my fears are that we were going to go with some big, LMS company and we would be a small contract and we'd have to fight to get the attention that we deserve to do our, and the partnership in terms of the creative process, right? I mean, it's all, as you well know, Bianca, it's like all commoditized, right? It's like, you need this many hours of learning. This is how it's going to be. And you get these things and tell us when it's done, right? And we didn't have that experience with you guys. We had a true collaborator and partner, and for that, I'm very grateful.
Thank you. That's really lovely. We like the size we are because we can give this service, so it's nice to hear that that's valued as well. I mean, obviously we have growth targets, but they're not to become sweatshop learning design, as I call it.
There's a lot of that going around, the sweatshop learning design.
There is. There's a lot in Australia as well. So yeah, I'm really glad you saw that we were invested in what you guys are doing from the beginning, which is great. Maybe, Jessie, you've been the project sponsor in a way and watching it a little bit distant. What's been your perspective on how the team's worked over the last 6 months?
We've always had in mind of doing our own training. We were just kind of waiting for when the time was right. And before there's other trainings out there that just made more sense to contract out. We have built a lot of our own expertise. And so then things just kind of fell into place all this year and actually made it possible where Ken joined our team. Everybody else was good in their positions. And we got a grant specifically for building something like this. And so we want to take advantage of that opportunity, but still we're, as an organization, new to building a learning system. We knew we had the knowledge, but to properly put it out there in a usable, user-friendly way, right? And so a lot of kudos to Julie for doing the due diligence and Ken putting in his input on that. And just like they said, we wanted to make sure that we had a good partner with this. The international wasn't too big of a deal. One of our colleagues is in Thailand or actually Vietnam. We have branches all over the country, so it's always weird time zones, and we do our best to make it work, and it seemed to have worked. And just from the get-go, you can see there's a little bit of a learning curve from our side of how do we properly distill this information and what's the correct courses. From Julie's feedback, you guys always seem to be very much willing to be open, honest, and flexible to work with us on that. So right away, I just heard really good feedback from everybody involved that, sometimes there's a little bit of like, maybe not buyer's remorse, but like trepidation of like, is this the right partner? But it seemed pretty quick that you guys were really coming in as partners as opposed to us just contracting you in that sort of way. So very much appreciative of that. And just looking over the product, very much initially the other week, and it looks really nice. It looks very accessible. It looks very professional. And so just from what I hear from the different level of this, it's only been positive feedback.
Amazing. Thank you. And I think that's the biggest win for this whole project has been the collaboration and the creative. So I've really appreciated the space that you guys have provided for us to guide and sort of give you those perspectives and help shape that creative. You know, you never publish your first draft of a book. And when it comes to online learning, it is a very iterative process. And that's why, as an agency, we really try not to do sweatshop learning design because of that reason, is that it's got to iterate, right? And I've really appreciated, you know, your ability to sit in those conversations, even if we've been tussling out how's this going to look and, you know, giving space for that creative to happen. So is there any particular moment inside the project that stands out for you?Maybe Gillian, you've been a bit closer to it, or I mean, even anything that stood out for you that was kind of like the aha moment?
One big one. It's definitely a very iterative process. And so it wasn't like a giant great leap forward and then everything just followed from that. It was kind of like a continuous process and ongoing aha week over week, you know, as we learn new ways of designing the learning that we wanted to create to support our students, right?
There was two for me. One was really getting into the rhythm with the versions of the storyboards. Because the beginning is tough because there's so much pressure and anticipation on the first ones to go in. So, right, we had 15 modules. Once we had like 3 or 4 in the shoot and we were like juggling the different versions, and then we got the rhythm of that felt good to start to project, okay, now we're content creating here, we're doing storyboard here, we're doing editing here, and that felt good. The other one was that we had a hurdle towards the first third of the project in defining those learner inputs. And we kept a lot of different types of activities and assessments and tasks. And we quickly realized that we were using different language across, like Oppida had language for theirs. We had language that we thought we wanted to call it, and then LearnWorlds comes with like stock language on like what they're called in the system. So we're like, okay, like let's do a quick
time out.
Make a document or two and like really explain what we're trying to do here. And then once we added that to our feedback log where we're tracking by module, and Ben was a huge help in helping document all of those in there, then that was like another big hurdle. I think we worked well together.
Yes, I remember that. It was a bit of an interesting week with lots of things flying around. Like, do you mean this? Do you mean that? I don't know. And that is one of the big things in this space is it's about consistency and it's about processes and setup. And that's part of that creative as well. So it was a fun week. Maybe Ben, you've been more of an SME in this particular project. How does it felt like for you to come in and sort of drop wisdom bombs on the team and then work inside the process?
Well, I was actually going to say the same thing as Julie. I'm a big process algorithm guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, especially to be fed at first and like, oh, I'm just working on this little chunk and on this little chunk. Then all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's this Gantt chart. But once it all clicked in the way that you guys do it, like you were saying, it is iterative. So like, I don't need to have this perfect because I'm going to send it to you. You guys are going to fix it. You're going to send it back, give us the opportunity to look at it. And then that back and forth was huge. But once we got in that rhythm, it was smooth sailing. Other than the 3 different languages being spoken about the same thing, that was also... But again, we got it figured out and the rhythm felt very smooth once we all kind of got on the same page.
And so maybe that's a good segue to this learning curve you've been through with us. We touched on it last week in a meeting sort of incidentally, but like how has it got you guys to think bigger about what you can do? What has it done for you as a team to get through this learning curve with us? Because it's been a huge piece of learning for everybody involved. What is it doing for you now as you go into 2026?
I think it's prepared us to do the work ourselves, which is always kind of the optimal outcome in one of these. And again, to your credit, many vendors who I've worked with, they're very incentivized to keep you going. You know, they're like, oh, you got one more thing, you've got this, you've got that, and better keep us around, and what if it all breaks? We've had none of that from you guys. In fact, we've had support for transition, you know, and knowledge development and skills acquisition around using LearnWorlds. I mean, Julie's really led that charge, right? But I feel like we're in a position where we're able to operate with minimal support moving forward. And that's like a really good position to be in as we launch this course, because it's all about iteration, and we're going to change stuff, and we're going to put in the videos, we're going to take out some of this, we're going to do. I think your support and guidance has helped us get to that place, and I appreciate that you haven't tried to keep us captive. You know what I mean? Kudos to you for helping us learn how to ride the bike with the training wheels, with you guys holding us up, and then letting us ride on our own and being available to do some problem solving. Or I suspect that our paths will cross again soon. Your expert consultation is like so critical at decision points that moving forward could be extremely helpful. As we develop additional content for Colorado, for example, there'll probably be an opportunity to collaborate there too. What do they say? Do one, teach one, learn one. What is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now we're off doing it, and that's an awesome place to be.
Makes me so happy. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I can't take the educator out of me. So I've been an educator my whole life, and it's like it would feel wrong to kind of keep anyone captive. We've got so much to do in the online space and digital education and education in general that I really trust that you're going to go off and fly, and then every now and then you might come back and say, oh, like let's do this thing together. So I'm really happy that came across. Is there anything else anyone wants to say about the project?
I'll just say on your previous question,
yeah,
it seems like the team got just like a really good understanding of what's involved in this, and it's great because I mean that's part of the reason we want to do it like modular basis in case we want to expand or have other avenues of it. And so walking away, it seems like everybody's pretty competent, and like Ken said, like if we are expanding it or branching to work with other groups, then we know what realistic expectations look like, and we also know a good partner if we need help creating those modules.
Perfect.
And then also, woohoo!
Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Project Ants. Thank you guys. You've been amazing. It's been a real highlight of our 2025. So thank you so much, and good luck with your launch in February with your learners. Cannot wait to hear some feedback from the learners.